Hi everyone, yasas que kalos to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making such a delicious recipe. I'll show you how to make my Greek pizza boats, also known as Peinirli. These are just like the Turkish bide. We share a lot of recipes in common, and I love that about cuisine. It brings everyone all together. We have so many common recipes, and this is one of them. Who does not love pizza? But this one is even better. The crust is crispy on the outside, it's soft on the inside, it's topped with lots of gooey cheese and other toppings. You could pretty much customize this to your liking. Let's get started. We're going to begin by making the dough. So I'll add 3 cups of lukewarm water to my KitchenAid mixer with 2 1/4 teaspoons of dry active yeast, a teaspoon of granulated sugar, and 1 cup of all-purpose flour. So in the bowl over here, I have 5 more cups of all-purpose flour. You can use bread flour for this. It'll make it even better. And then add 2 teaspoons of salt to it. We're going to let the yeast and flour mixture sit for about 10 minutes just to make sure that that yeast is active. If it forms a cloud, a foamy cloud at the top of the mixture, you know your yeast is good and it'll make the dough rise. If not, and it rarely happens that yeast goes bad, but when it does, you're going to want to throw that batch away and go and get a fresh container of yeast to make this recipe. Now we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and all of the flour and salt mixture, and then we're going to let this knead for 10 minutes at low speed. Once it's done, lightly grease a big bowl with some olive oil, transfer the dough mixture to the bowl and toss it around so that way the dough is covered. This is a very loose and sticky dough. Then I'll just cover it with some plastic wrap or a clean kitchen towel and set this aside in the warmest place of your house so it can double in volume. If you're going to be topping your pizza boats with a meat topping, you can make my very easy meat sauce. I've made it so many times for hundreds of different recipes. It's very simple. We're going to finely chop an onion and add it to a skillet with a little bit of olive oil. Cook the onion until it's soft and golden for about 7 to 8 minutes. Next, we're going to go in with some garlic, about 6 garlic cloves that are grated. This garlic is frozen, so it's going to take a little bit longer. Otherwise, after a few seconds, the garlic is fragrant. It's ready. You don't want to overcook grated garlic because then it'll burn and become bitter. Next, I'll go in with ground beef. So you only need a pound for this recipe, but anytime I'm making a meat sauce, I always make more because you can use it in so many different recipes throughout the week. So I'll go in and add 2 pounds of ground beef to this, season it with some salt and freshly cracked black pepper, and just cook it a little bit until the pinkness goes away. Then we'll add a little pinch of cinnamon, just a 1/4 teaspoon. It makes it nice and fragrant. I also like to add some crushed red pepper flakes, 1 can, a 15-ounce can of either crushed tomatoes or a tomato sauce that doesn't have too many ingredients in it. And then rinse out the can with a little bit of water just so it could help the sauce thicken a little bit and cook evenly. So we're going to cook the meat sauce for about 20 minutes until it's nice and thick, and then you can taste it and add more salt and pepper if it's needed. I also like to add a teaspoon of dried oregano at this point, and then finally chop some parsley and add a nice handful of parsley in there. Toss everything all together and the meat sauce is ready. You're going to let this cool completely. And now we're going to make the cheese topping. This is the characteristic topping that goes on the pizza boats. So I'm going to crumble feta cheese, a good amount. This is equal feta and mozzarella. So if you're measuring about 2 to 3 cups of feta cheese and about 2 to 3 cups of mozzarella, I like to shred my own mozzarella, but you can buy already shredded mozzarella too, just so it can make it easy. I have 4 scallions here that I'm just going to thinly slice all the way down to the white parts. Those are going to go in too. And about 3 to 4 tablespoons of fresh parsley, 2 garlic cloves that are grated, and then a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes. Just toss this all together and then it's ready. You're also going to want to have some melted butter ready. You don't have to use butter. You can use olive oil instead if you like. And then a little bit of semolina flour for the pan. This is going to give it a little bit of like a pizza texture on the bottom. It's not necessary, but I usually do it anytime I'm making any type of pizza recipe. I'll add lots of flour to my counter and then transfer the dough to it. It's very sticky, so just lightly knead the dough in that flour just so that stickiness can go away. I like to cut this into 6 equal portions, but you can definitely make smaller pizza boats if you like. So we're going to take 1 portion at a time. You can use a rolling pin for this or your hands. The dough is so easy to work with because it's so nice and light. You really don't need a rolling pin, but you can use one if you want to. You want to roll these out into an oval shape, about 10 to 12 inches long. and then the width is about 6 to 7 inches wide. You don't have to roll them out fully until you put them on the parchment paper. Sprinkle a little bit of semolina flour over the parchment paper that's on the baking sheet, and then carefully transfer 2 pieces of the dough that have been stretched out onto the baking trays, and then you can stretch them out a little bit more on the tray. They'll be much easier to transfer if they're a little bit smaller rather than them being bigger and fully rolled out. Now we're just going to roll the edges to create a little crust, and then we're going to take the tips and make them a little bit pointed. So you're going to roll them and stretch a little bit, and you could fold them under just so that way they can hold their shape. Brush the top and the sides of the dough with that melted butter, and then you can top it with either the cheese mixture or the meat sauce that we made. If you're using the meat sauce, you can leave it just like that, or you can add more flavor by topping it with a little bit of that cheese mixture that we made. It's also going to protect the meat from getting a little bit too brown in the oven. My oven is preheated to 475 degrees Fahrenheit. You can bake these at 500 degrees Fahrenheit if your oven doesn't bake too hot, but you know your oven best, and if it bakes a little bit hotter than mine, then you can drop the temperature a little bit just so that way they don't burn. These are going to take about 15 to 20 minutes. They're ready when the edges are golden brown and the cheese is fully melted. The cheese is going to get a little bit of a nice brown color. So if you're reheating them and serving them later on, you can save a little bit of either just shredded mozzarella, or you probably will have a little bit of the cheese mixture left over. So when you go to reheat them, you can sprinkle a little more cheese on top and just reheat them at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 minutes, just until the cheese melts and they warm through. And that's it, they're ready to serve. And there you have it, my homemade Greek pizza boats, Peinirli. It came out of the oven. The house smells incredible, and I cannot wait to serve these to my family. I also can't wait to do the taste test. My daughter and I served these recently for her Valentine's Day lunch that she hosted for her bridesmaids. And we served these alongside my creamy roasted tomato soup, and the combination is to die for. If you haven't tried my tomato soup, you're going to want to give it a shot. You can make it way ahead of time, especially when you're doing dinner parties. I might do a special on menus and dinner parties and things like that, because there's so many things that you need to keep in mind when you're creating a menu, and making things ahead of time, like things that you can make a week or 2 weeks ahead of time if you plan that far ahead, make entertaining so much easier. If you want more recipes like that or menu videos, comment down below and I'll try to put them together and share them with you. But anyway, these pizza boats taste so good with the tomato soup. Of course, you don't have to make tomato soup with them, and just serve them as is with a nice salad. An arugula salad will go so well with them. Let me do the taste test because I'm almost drooling. I do like the meat topped ones, but the cheese topping is my favorite. So good, so cheesy and delicious. Today we used mozzarella and feta, but in Greece, casseri is commonly used with feta, and if you can find that cheese, it's delicious, and you should use that instead of the mozzarella. You can make these any size you want. You can make them individual size and turn them into really small pizza boats, but I do prefer the bigger ones because when you make them a little bit bigger, then you can pile on more cheese on top. The crust is less thin and it's more thick and hearty and good. So I showed you both ways when I did the video. You choose which way you're making it and let me know in the comment section down below how you made it. Top this with your favorite toppings, whether it's cheese or meat sauce, or if you want to do a vegetarian pizza. Let me know how you're making it. I'd love to read the comments. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. And if you want to learn how to make the roasted tomato soup, click over here and I'll see you right over there. Yes, us.